is your business? Are you in a business? And my question is to you, do you see yourself being in this business forever and ever and ever? I mean, can your business be your future, your joyful, your pleasant, your amazing future? Today I have somebody amazing who actually knows what he talks about because he helped so many businesses already. And I'm so delighted to bring advices and wisdom and all the knowledge which Mark Jarvis accumulated over 40 years and plus. That's more than how old I am to you, so you can learn how to do your business so much better, so that can be your bright future. Mark, thank you so much for joining me in this live studio today.
Good afternoon, Olga. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me. I look forward to a long and enjoyable chat. I'm sure it will be.
Well, I must tell you, every time when we meet, and we met in my office so many times, it was a great discussion. We have so much in common. We like talking business. And actually, I remember when I met you, it was at the event where you were speaking. Was it a conference by any chance? I think it was a conference.
It was a conference, wasn't it? Really? Yes, yes.
Yeah, and you were speaking, and you were speaking about relationships and business. And I was like, oh, that's my man. That's my man. He knows exactly what he talks about. And I fall in love with your content straight away. And we had instant connection. And I remember then we met. We met afterwards in a pub. That was your old Bell, I believe so, the hotel.
It was. Yeah, Bawtry, yes, yes.
That's right, yeah. And that's it. Since then, every time we meet, we had great conversations about businesses. And I know people will benefit so much from your knowledge today. So I'm so desperate to share with people what you know.
Absolutely, and I very much look forward to it. The challenge that most people find is they have difficulty keeping me quiet. That's the problem, mostly. So hopefully we'll get some interaction going today as well. And if people got some questions and things like that, I'd be really pleased and honored to answer them.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, I'll monitor Facebook and also YouTube. And whenever there'll be a question or something else, that will definitely report to you. And we will be doing our best to answer all the questions which we'll have today. But I must say, Mark, when we speak about let's make businesses better for the brighter future for yourself, it's such a broad topic because there's so many things in the business which people should work on when they are in the business. But when they're in the business, they're in their little bubble and they cannot see actually what is happening.
That's very true. Yes.
So how they can start building better business for better future?
Okay, so a very good question to start with. I would suggest that actually we probably need to rewind it a little bit and think about what is the purpose of business. And I know that one of your former guests talked a little bit about that. But I would ask you to think about the concept of whether this is an infinite game or a finite game. And for those of you that read a lot, there's a guy called Simon Sinek, very respected business author, writes loads and loads of books. I've got a great deal of time for the guy. He says a lot of very clever things in a very straightforward way. And there's a couple of books, but one of his books is called The Infinite Game. And in that book, he talks about the difference between us as business owners, focusing very much on a finite transactional process. And Olga, you know that when you and I have spoken, we've talked about the difference between a transactional mindset and a relational mindset, which perhaps we'll get to as well. But the concept of a finite process is really important in our world because we look at what we do in our business in terms of our competition. And we think about, well, how can I compete? How can I be the best? And very often when I'm working with a client, I say, well, what's your USP? And they say, well, I want to be the best. What are your goals? I want to be the best. I want to be the top of my game. I want to be this, that, and the other. And I said, well, what happens when you get there?
Yeah.
Where do you go when you've reached the top, when you are the thought leader, when you are all of these things, where do you go? So the concept of the infinite mindset is that you're only competing with yourself. Yeah. The goal every day is to be a little bit better than I was yesterday. And then you're always in business. And you'll always be at the top of your game. So I think that's an important concept. So I'm not sure if that answers the question directly, but from a mindset point of view, from a thought point of view, I would ask you guys to consider, actually, what am I doing in my world that makes me better each day? So I'm working in an infinite world rather than just that finite transaction after transaction after transaction. Hope that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And that is a perfect first step. Change from transactional to relational. This is the first step, because then you actually can work on your mindset from different perspective. And also, you're right, when you compete with other people, you'll be forever in competition, and you will build a really big imposter syndrome, which will not serve you well. But when you compete with yourself and you aim for better, I think it was Steve Jobs who said that, can we do it better? Whatever result was achieved, the question was, can we do it any better? I think it's really, really powerful. It could be anything. Customer service, can it be any better? The quality of your product or your service, can it be better? The website, can it look better? Your email responses, can that be better? I mean, everything can be always improved. And when you start with that mindset, you will grow your business in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. There's one of my favorite quotes, and I forgive me, I can't remember who actually said it, that and it's, when you compete on price, your margins will always reduce.
Yeah.
And when you compete on purpose, your profits will increase.
Oh, that is so true. And Mark, how many times we had discussions about this? And actually, people have a choice what type of business they want to be. Right? Everybody has a choice. Yes, we have average prices, but you're always going to have average prices. But you can make a choice to be very cheap, or you can make a choice to be really expensive. Right? And the thing is, there are people who will buy any of them. You just need to be foundable for them. You need to be available to them. You need to make sure you're visible to them. But actually, it's either Ford business or Ferrari business. It's your choice what you're going ahead with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that drives us forward is what it is that we want and what's our purpose in business. As I said, when we have clarity on, well, to use Simon Sinek stuff again, what's your why? Why are you doing what you do? But if we have clarity on our purpose, it's our purpose that people buy.
Yeah.
There's so many common sayings out there. People buy people. That's a very common one, isn't it? And we say that, but actually, how many people actually do that? It's another question entirely, as you know. But just being able to focus very much on our purpose and why we do what we do and what drives us and what's important to us, and recognizing that actually, when we're driving our business forward, driven by our purpose, then that's what people will buy into. That's when people will engage with us. And one of the questions I'm often asked is, well, what if I want to do business with everybody? And that's one way of doing it. You could do that. But as we've talked about previously, when we're doing business with everybody, you're dealing in 80% drama. Nobody needs that in their world.
No.
But when we're dealing with and we're promoting and developing our purpose, and we're promoting ourselves on our purpose, we attract people that engage with that purpose. And when we attract people that engage with that purpose, then we're building a relational business.
Yeah.
Because we're working with people that are like us. Yeah. I know you and I have talked about the concept of know, like, and trust a few times. Yeah. And that's another one of those common phrases that people say all the time. People by people, know, like, and trust, all that sort of thing. I wrote a brief article on LinkedIn actually about the know, like, and trust concept, which I'm happy to share with you the concepts of it.
Yes.
But you can go into more detail and read the article itself if you want to. But it's quite an interesting, I think, perhaps an interesting insight really into that. When we're talking about the relational side of business and building a relational business, where we talk about the know part, we believe, and we have been led to believe perhaps, that the know part of the know, like, and trust process is that you get to know me and you get to know what I do.
Right.
Now, that's the commonly held belief. I believe that it's better than that. I believe that, yes, we get to know each other and we get to know why we do what we do.
Yes.
And that's quite different, isn't it? From I get to know you and I get to know what you do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I don't really care what you do. I care why you do it.
Yeah.
So that's quite an interesting, perhaps just a little insight or a little twist into that concept of, do you know what? I get to know you, but actually I then get to know why you do what you do.
100%.
The next step is the like process. Interrupt me if you want to, Olga, because otherwise I won't shut up.
No, I love what you're saying. You love it. I know already some comments on that, but I love it. Carry on.
So the like part of it, again, it's one of these commonly held beliefs, and we've sort of been drawn into that concept that, you know what, if you get to know me and you get to like me, then trust will follow. Now, I think actually there's a hidden message in there. And whilst we believe that, yes, you get to know me, you get to like what I do, I become likable. But I believe it's more than that. Because if we truly want trust, then we need to be alike.
Yes.
Not just likable.
Yeah.
You know, like you, we all go to lots of networking events, and I'm sure our audience go to lots of networking events as well. And we can feel that if I'm likable in that organization, in that network, then trust will follow. Fortunately, I've got some news for you. It won't.
Yes.
Trust follows when you are alike and you are networking and building relationships with people with whom you're alike with, if that makes sense. So that's a little hidden thing again in that part, isn't it? So now we've got some extra things in place where we say, actually, I get to know you and I get to know why you do what you do.
Yeah.
I get to network and engage with people with whom I'm alike. Forgive the grammar there if I messed it up, but
it's okay.
you know, that's important. It's not just about being likable, it's being alike. And then trust will follow. And there's a whole piece on trust, which if we've got time, I'll share briefly with you, if that's okay.
Would be great. Yes, please. Absolutely.
So I think that there's a couple of things in there. You know, the commonly held belief is get to know, you get to like, you get to trust, you get to get some business. Great. Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? No. When we're looking at the relational side of it, when we're looking at building relationships in business, and we want those relationships to turn into business in the future, and even better, referrals. Wow, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Do you know what? The trust part is a two-parter. And we all know the basic concept of trust, which says, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
Yes.
And we get that. I call it the difference between explicit trust and implied trust. So we have a level of explicit trust that we talk about with each other and is open. So do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, very basically. But there's also a hidden element in there I call implied trust. Now, you will have a level of expectation from me that I might not necessarily know. Yeah?
True. Yeah, everybody has. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's the same for all of us in any relationship. You know, there are things, and you will know when you're doing your personal relationship coaching and individual personal relationship coaching, sometimes people have a hidden level of expectation from each other that isn't necessarily communicated.
100%.
Now, I know that what you do is to help them communicate and do that, which is fab. But you know what? It's like that in business too.
Yeah.
You know, as a business person, I have a level of implied or expectations, if you like, of what I expect the people around me to live up to. I probably haven't told them, but you know what? If they don't live up to that hidden level of expectation that I have, the trust isn't there in the same way as it is in personal relationships. Yeah. And I think we often overlook that in business. You know, we look at it superficially and say, well, you get to know me, you get to like what I do, you get to know what I do, you'll trust me then. Well, do you know what? No. Anyway.
I love it. I love what you're saying there.
I'll take a breath now.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe a sip of water as well. I love what you said there. And actually, I would like to go back to the why it's important to share with people your why. Because my personal opinion is that we feel relatable to whoever it is talking to us, only based what we know about them. And if we know their mission, if we know their passion, if we know why they do their business, we can relate to them easy as well. How many speakers, for example, from the stage, when you go to events or any conferences, they would stand up there and they would share something very vulnerable about them. They would share some challenges, what they overcame, and issues and problems. And only that people feel like, oh my God, if he did it, I can do it. Or if she did it, I can do it. And you become relatable. But if somebody stands up there and they say, well, I can help you, which normally people do at the business events, I can help you, but I'm not going to share anything about me or why I do that or my mission or my passion. People just look at them as just, okay, there's another poster. Just another poster. Like in Yellow Pages, you just go through pages and you think, okay, that's another page. That's another business. And there's no relationship. So I love what you were saying there. And I think it's so, so profound. And if many more businesses would only pay attention to this, which is almost like backstage stuff in the business, rather the front stuff, which is, oh, I need products, I need websites, I need social media, businesses will survive for so much longer.
That's very true. That's very true. I saw a fundamental shift in terms of the way people make buying decisions. And I know you and we've talked about this, I think, in the past, haven't we, really? But I think it's perhaps worth sharing today, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
And perhaps our audience probably sense this happening in our world in over the last sort of few years or so. But, as you've very kindly pointed out, then, I've been around a little bit longer than you. Thank you for that. That's okay. But I remember, if we wanted to buy something when I was young, for example, many, many years ago, if I wanted to buy something, then my option was to go to the local high street, go to the local town, go to walk down the high street, to look in the shop window, to look at some things. And I thought, okay, that looks quite nice. Then I would go into the shop and then I would take the advice of the salesperson. And I would seek advice from the salesperson about which was the right product to buy. Now, that's what used to happen, but nowadays that's not what happens. If you think about the way that we buy things, the way that I buy things now, I almost always know what I'm going to buy before I buy it.
There we go.
Yeah. So if you're going to go into one of the major sort of white goods stores or something like that, then you're going to say, well, actually, I know what sort of TV I'm going to buy. I know what sort of computer I'm going to buy. I know what sort of washing machine I'm going to buy, whatever it is. You know what you're going to buy because you probably spent ages on Google or the such like researching it. You know what? And as we've mentioned before, I'm a bit of a petrol head. I like my cars. So I often go on the manufacturer's website and I'd like build cars and think, oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Let's add that option and do that. So fundamentally, when we're buying things now, we're not making a decision what to buy. We make a decision about who to buy from.
Yeah.
But yet, as you've mentioned, so many businesses are out there trying to sell what they do. But that's not what people buy. Because as I comment regularly, we now have global access to market. Global access to market. It's not even as though it's in your own town or in your own county or country. It's global access to market, particularly if you're in a service-based business. So why are we always constantly trying to promote our products when actually that's not what people buy anymore? Because I already know what I want. I'm just choosing about where to buy it from. And that's where that relational side and the revalued version of know, like and trust that I've explained, that's where that really comes in and makes a real difference.
I love it. And a little comment on you can buy anything anywhere is right now you can even buy something from not your country, not even your continent, and send to another continent without you being involved in that. Like before you had to buy, wrap it up and deliver. Now you don't have to do it. You can buy presents from anywhere you are to anywhere you want to, and you are not involved at all whatsoever. And this just blows my mind. This is like, oh my God, aren't we just lucky to live in this world? And even with these delays during the COVID-19, I think it's fine. Yes, we had some delays, but guess what? It's not like the old times when you had to hand deliver stuff. So I think it's really remarkable where we live right now. But actually, we have here great comments. So Nice Alferez is saying, love the insights. Thanks for this, Olga. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And it's not thanks to me, it's thanks to Mark. It's his insights. So thank you so much, Mark. And we have a question. Are you ready for a question, Mark?
I'm ready for questions. Yeah. Absolutely.
And if anybody else wants to ask questions, it's either on Facebook or on YouTube. You can type anywhere. Right now, I'm going to read a question from YouTube. Vinit Ambat is asking, what suggestion would you like to give to start-up businesses in terms of sustainability in times of crisis situations like COVID?
Okay, so it sounds like there's probably two questions in there. If you are a startup business now, I believe you are in absolutely the perfect position.
Yes.
Because now you know something that your competitors don't, because you know what an infinite relational business could look like. You know that an infinite relational business starts with why do you do what you do and your purpose. And if you have clarity on that, and you're now every piece of your promotion, every piece of your marketing, your website, your social media, all of that stuff is led by your purpose, that is something that your competitors won't be doing, because they will be scratching around, trying to get clients, trying to get business, drama. And as a startup business in times of change, this is a process. This is something that's worked for let's say 500,000 years. You know, that level of communication, human interaction, the way that people engage and decide whether to engage with people and build in the old days, it used to call them tribes, as you build a tribe of people around you, they buy into who you are and why you are, not what you do.
Yes.
So I don't know if that answers the question. I hope it does. If it isn't, ask a question again.
Sure. Well, will be good to know from Vinit if you are satisfied with this answer. And yes, as Mark says, if you want to know more, just ask another question, because this is what we are here for, to answer your questions. Amazing, Mark. But I remember what really impressed me about you when you mentioned relationships at that conference. And we already touched base on that. And it's one of the things which people forget about how to build relationships. And I remember you said about those amazing points of, was it the connection? How many times people should nowadays, because it's different to the old days, how many times there should be businesses interacting with their potential clients until they hit the button and they become, that loyal client who will buy from them more. So would you mind to share those points? Because I'm sure people will benefit from that.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I guess, again, if we sort of start back from where our traditional mindset is first and what traditional thinking has taught us, traditional sales training to traditional marketing has taught us, you need 7 touch points to gain a client. I mean, that's what traditional sales, and forgive me if we've any sales trainers on the call, because, it's a very important part of what we do. But fundamentally, we are taught the traditional sales process, 7 touch points to close a sale. And what I found we tend to do is we tend to transfer that thought process into our relational world. And we take that concept of 7 touch points, however many touch points, and transfer that into what we think we have to do with relationships. Now, whilst there is an element of keeping in touch with people and engaging and all that sort of thing, the most important thing to recognize is that relationships and relationship building and relational business is not a volume-based process. Okay? Sales is a volume-based process. Sales is a transactional process. Relational business, getting your purpose, getting your why, getting your network of people that are with whom you are alike, as I mentioned earlier on, not just likable. When you have that network of people around you, it's not a volume-based business. Yes. So one of the things that I mentioned is the concept of building your network is about finding a few good people. There's a movie actually called A Few Good People. I can't remember what it was. Somebody will be able to comment what that title is. A Few Good Men, I think it's actually called. But the concept of building your network is very much about finding good people and then educating them, in training them in your purpose and who you are and what you do and how you help people and who you want to work with, all of those things that you naturally do anyway from a relational point of view. And then once you have a few of those people around you, those are the people that are going to bring you the referrals. And I liken the relationship, I call it a relationship pipeline, not a particularly creative name, because that's what it is, because it's related to the sales pipeline concept. So going back to the traditional way of thinking, in that we think about, okay, so for every sale that I want to generate, on average, we have to put about 20 people into our sales pipeline to get one person to come out of that salesperson and pipeline and turn into a client, for example. But a relationship pipeline is the other way up. If you put one person in your relationship pipeline and enable that person will generate you referrals forever.
Yes, 100%.
Now that's a very different thing, isn't it? Because actually it's the reverse. And all we need to do is just move away from this transactional volume-based process to a relational process where we're finding the right people.
That's true.
And it's counterintuitive, you know, in the common commercial world, it's counterintuitive. However, it's what's always worked.
Of course.
For a million years.
I must say, what comes into my mind about this concept is just normal intimate relationships, right? You don't really go and you date 50 people at the same time. Yes, you go through numbers and then you find the one person and then you introduce that person to your friends, to your parents, to those people who are in your life. And then they start building relationships. And I like to actually bring this concept into business, because in the business, it's the same thing. You should have the same level of trust. You should have the same level of interest in the other person, in your customer, for them actually to relate to you so much that they actually want to work with you. And then that will introduce you to their parents and friends and everybody else, right? It doesn't have to be that, straightforward, but you know what I mean? The concept is still there. You introduce people to wherever you tried, tested, bought, driven, experienced only when you felt that served you well. Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head, Olga. Absolutely. That is fundamentally the way that we're built. As a human being, as an animal, an animal, we are built that way. And it's really, if you think back, and I'm not trying to give everybody a history lesson or anything like that, but if you think back to, where this concept of capitalism came from and commercialism came from, basically it's all post-war stuff, effectively. Yeah. At the end of the war, we all started, capitalism started, and more and bigger and better and all that sort of thing. All of that concept started. But fundamentally, do you know what? Take it back 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. What is it that drives us as people? And it is that relational aspect, people by people. Yes, absolutely. Oh, that is so good. So good. All right. So what are the other, or are there any other new points of communication nowadays versus the old days, apart of emails, apart of, the WhatsApp messages, whatever else? Do you think there's something else that people should do differently to the way how they were doing before? Just to carry on the same topic about how many points of communication businesses should have with a potential client. So my perspective on this, and it's only my perspective, is that, I talked earlier on about, when I was young, many moons ago, you wanted to buy something, you would walk down the high street, you'd go into a shop, you'd look in the window, you'd go in the shop and you'd choose what to buy. But if we take that process into our modern world, well, do you know what? Our digital footprint is effectively our shop window. Yeah. And our website and our social media, that's our shop window. And that's the way that people will decide who they want to engage with. Yeah. Now, don't forget, they're not deciding which product to buy. Yeah. They're deciding which shop to go into. Now, for those of us that have been to a sort of a reasonable sized town, wherever you are in the world,
you will know that there's often more than one of each type of shop in your town.
Yep.
And you might go in one shop and you might go in another shop, but fundamentally all have the same sort of products.
Yeah.
Which is the one that you engage with? Is it the shop window? Not always.
That's true.
Is it the people that you talk to when you go in the shop?
Well, if that's your friend, then you go in and you can chat to your friend potentially. But is it the main driver? No.
Yeah. So what I found over the years is that actually, if we take that concept of people buying people, then when we are demonstrating our true self and our true purpose, and we're being genuine with people, then that's what people engage with, because they sense that level of genuineness. Not sure if that's a real word. Just made it up if it isn't.
Make it up.
Okay. So, yeah, it's not uncommon. That sense of genuineness, if you like, it's something that we can't hide. And when we didn't have a choice about where to buy from, we would just buy something.
Yeah.
Now we have a choice. We latch on to that human aspect, and we buy from people who are being genuine. They're being true to their purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, Olga, but if we're using our WhatsApp and our Facebook and our social media and all that sort of stuff, for me, the route to success is being genuine in what you talk about, being true to yourself, and it's not about being opinionated, because if there are plenty of people out there that are more than capable of creating a social media post or create a message which divides opinion. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. I don't think, for me, it's not the best thing to do. I'm perfectly capable of sharing my personal opinions with the people that are important to me, that I care about. I don't need everybody and their auntie to know what that is. So I don't know whether that's answering the question, Olga, really, but that's
it is, yes. Yeah, in a way that it's not about the quantity of point of contacts, but it's about the quality. It's about how do you contact them and what do you do for that. And I like that. I really like that. But I've got another, I hope it's not a tricky question. If you don't want to answer, it's fine, because as you know, nothing is scripted. And by the way, anybody who's watching us right now, there's no scripted question. There's no preparation. I like to put my guests right on the spot sometimes.
It's the answers that are going to be stupid. It's not the questions.
No, I would never invite anybody stupid. No. And because not everybody can get on my show, it's quite selective. I carefully choose people who come into my show. I always feel safe. So that's a different point as well. So Mark, because you are, in a business industry for more than 40 years, that's more than my...
Thank you for getting that again. I love the way you've done that 3 times now. That's good.
Well, just to make it clear, right? Just to make it clear. Just in case if somebody haven't got it by now. I wonder, Mark, what actually got you into stepping out of business and helping other businesses? Because naturally people want to carry on with their business.
Yes.
Want to keep working, being in their bubble, and you don't. You actually help so many other businesses everywhere. And I'm just wondering, how far do you go with that? Like, do you do it internationally? Do you do it locally? And why did you do that?
Very good question. Thank you very much for asking. Perhaps we should have started with that. So, I still do. I still have businesses, and I still am involved in businesses, as you know. And very, very briefly, I was in the hotel industry for 22 years. Scary. What a percentage of that? So for 22 years, I was in the hotel industry, and I came out of that in the 90s, early 90s, to start my first business. And ever since then, really, I've started businesses, built them, sold them, employed people, fired people, pretty much everything that you can imagine that you do in businesses. That's what I do. I've been involved in business networking and franchising for 10 years. Worked with literally hundreds of businesses over the years. And I love that I can share what I've learned on my journey so that people don't have to wait.
Oh, I love it.
You know, and I made a comment. I wrote an article again this morning. It will go out on social media at some point, commenting that so many business owners believe that they don't actually need any more help.
Yes.
And, you know, if you liken the process again to, you know, when we were young, long time ago for me, just another one in there. Right. Or yes. You know, my parents taught me, their parents taught them.
Yeah.
When I went to school, the teachers taught me.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to college, the lecturers taught me. When I went to uni, the lecturers taught me. So all of a sudden I start my business. Okay, I don't need to learn anything else.
Exactly, Mark. Honestly, I would give you just right now huddle, because
How does that work? How does that work?
I don't know. I honestly don't know why people don't understand it. Actually, look at the tennis players, look at the football teams, look at boxer players. They all get somebody who can help them with the right mindset, with the winning attitude, with the other technique they need to learn. And then people who want to run businesses, to be responsible for other people's lives, to employ them, fire them, just like as you mentioned earlier, to contribute towards the country budget and economy, no, they don't need help. Like, hello? Seriously?
It's bizarre, isn't it? It's bizarre. And I actually sort of took a sort of a mental note, if you like, and I think there is a correlation between business owners' propensity to I call it the propensity to innovate. Again, not a particularly catchy title, but that's what I call it.
Yeah.
So what that says is, you know, the bigger my business and the more people I engage in my business, the more staff I have, the bigger my team in my organization, the less likely I am to innovate.
Right.
Because there are too many things at risk.
And this is the wrong mindset. You need to innovate all the time. Like, look at businesses right now. Some of them are thriving because they adapted so quickly. They were like chameleons. Right, it's right. Okay, let's be right. That's it. They just adapted so quickly. And others suffered massively. Others just closed because for them it was like, oh, that's too massive change. I can't deal with that. It's too scary. But biggest business people in the world, and actually I had privilege to speak to Brad Sugars. I enjoyed talking to him. Even he said, well, businesses across 80 countries in the world where he has his businesses, he says, we just had to innovate. We just had to transform some of the businesses completely, from having a restaurant to actually taking a van and rebuilding that van to taking food now, selling that on streets like to families. And I thought, come on, why don't we just take example? Why don't we just copy these greatest minds in the world and go seek help, like yourself, like myself, like many other people who actually are helping people with running their mindsets towards success rather than failure.
Yeah. So coming back to the original question,
yeah,
you know, when somebody has an opportunity, I call it you're engaging with grey hair. I call it because. How old am I? No, you know, to have that level, I've lost count. To have that level of experience in an organization, that, you know, is an organization or a business, whether it's a sole trader or whatever it is, solopreneur, I call them.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just on your own, why are you going to wait to trip over all the things that you will trip over? You will, absolutely will. But you've got an opportunity to engage with yourself or myself or lots of other people like us that just have that level of experience. And you just say, well, actually, do you know what? I did that and it didn't work, so don't do it.
Exactly. There's so many mistakes which actually could be avoided. But I also know, and can I be a bit sneaky here? Is it all right?
Of course.
I also know that you actually do run a workshop on a better business. So what is this all about? Because I haven't heard about that before until recently.
Okay. So there's two questions that people ask themselves in business. As business owners, there's two main questions that people ask. The first one is a question that they don't ask anybody else. And the second one is a question that they ask everybody else. First one is, where's my next customer coming from?
Okay, yeah.
Now that's the question that everybody asks, but they don't ask anybody else. So I don't care what size of business you are, whether you're Apple, who have they're open again now, but all their shops were closed.
Yeah.
So you can imagine Apple sitting there thinking, where's my next customer coming from? So, it doesn't matter what size business you are. That's a fundamental question that people ask themselves. They just don't say it. Where's my next customer coming from? But yet, going back to what we've been talking about today, all we do is say, okay, transaction, next customer, next sale, all of that.
Yeah.
But yet, if we ask the second question, which is, how am I going to get more business?
Yes.
Now, that's a question that people ask because they ask that from suppliers. So let's say, for example, I'm thinking about outsourcing my social media marketing to an expert business. I'm going to say to them, how are you going to get me more business? If I'm thinking about engaging with any marketing company or any business development or any lead generation business, whatever it is, you can ask them, how are you going to get me more business?
Yeah.
Now, I believe that that's not the best question to ask.
Right.
Because the right question to ask is, how am I going to get better business?
I love that. Better business.
And that is a perfect example of a finite mindset or an infinite mindset. If we're asking the question, how am I going to get more business? That's a finite process, because more can only be more, can only be more, can only be more. More is not better. There are different letters in the noun, so they can't be the same.
Yeah.
More is just more.
Yeah.
And the big number one challenge with businesses that are on that more and more and more journey is that one day they'll run out of time. Because money is not a problem. You can always get more. Time, that's a problem because you can't.
Yeah.
So whether, as our audience that are listening today, whether that's where you are today, or that's where you will be here in the future, you will run out of time if you embark on a more strategy. And the only way that my clients who come to me, they often say, well, how do I get out of that circle? And I say, well, actually, let's just ask a different question. Let's just say, how am I going to get better business?
Yes.
Because if you're asking the question, how am I going to get better business, you're in an infinite game and you're thinking about, okay, so what's better? Yeah. What's better today than yesterday? So anyway, I'm talking again, Olga. Ask me another question, or if there's any other questions there.
But this is so good. This is so good. And actually, is it something what you are actually talking during your workshop?
Yes. Sorry, I forgot that was the question, wasn't it?
No, okay, that's what I'm clarifying. Okay.
Yeah. So that's about thinking. Okay. So what does better really mean to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's very easy for me to recognize what more is, because more is just more. But if you want more, just do more of what you're doing. You don't need me or anybody else to teach you how to do more of what you're already doing. Just do more of it.
Exactly.
It's okay. Do that. It's okay. But you'll run out of time eventually, one way or the other. You will. And the only way that people solve that, and do shut me up if I'm going on too long. I'm conscious of the time.
It's okay.
What happens is people employ people.
Yes.
And they make that person as busy as they were doing the same things.
Exactly.
And that is generally the traditional process of growing a business. Get busy, employ somebody and make them busy too.
Yep.
Get busy, make that person as busy as they were, doing the same things over and over again. And all I have is just a different route. I'm saying, hold on a minute. Rather than the yellow brick road, let's take the red brick road or something like that. There is a different route.
No, but it makes sense because, Mark, how many hours do we have? We only have 24 hours, all of us. No matter whether you reduce your sleep and you don't, waste your time on some activities, you actually just contribute everything towards your business, you still have a limited amount of hours. And that means if you want more business, in that case, you're still limited to those amount of hours and those fees which clients can pay you. But when you think about how can I get better business, with better, that also means the quality of your clients gets better, the fee they can charge them gets better, everything gets better. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And can you tell us when is where this workshop is happening? Is it something?
Oh, okay. So I have a workshop this Wednesday coming. It's online, unsurprisingly, based on where we are at the moment. It's on Eventbrite. It's on Wednesday, the 17th of June,
That is
9 till 11:30 a.m. I try to put one online at least once a month.
wonderful.
So the one I think in July, I'm sort of stretching out on a limb here. I think it's the 16th of July.
Okay.
I think. But if you look me up on LinkedIn, if you look me up on Facebook, you can find the links to the Eventbrite workshops that I do, coaching programs and deep dive learning programs, all sorts of different things.
Oh, please tell me more about this. And if you don't mind, just whilst I remember, if you don't mind, just send us details. If you can send me the links, that I can post them below the videos,
sure.
or you can comment as well. But what is that learning program? Could you please elaborate more on that?
So fundamentally, that is taking an individual on a journey, or an organization on a journey, which is moving them from the more hamster wheel, if you like, roundabout, going round and round and round, towards the relational, the infinite mindset, the better mindset.
Yeah.
The Japanese have a word for it called Kaizen. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but it's the concept of ever improvement.
Right.
And we said right at the beginning of the conversation, my competition is me.
Yes.
And I'm only in competition with myself. So my only challenge is to be better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
Not more, not busier,
Yeah.
but better. And that's a very different thing. So anyway, so the learning program is just taking people and organizations on that journey to say, well, actually, what is better? What is better business?
Yeah, exactly.
Because so many people don't know.
Yeah.
If I said to somebody down the road, or, feel free to leave a comment if there's people listening, what's better business? What does that mean to you? What is that? I'd be interested to see if there's any replies. So that's what it is. It's about taking people on that journey.
Okay, that's really interesting. Oh, please send me the link so actually I can share with people as well so they can find out more, because right now this is the perfect opportunity for anybody to improve themselves, improve their businesses, because we're building the future. I mean, today, whatever we do today, those who are watching this video, thank you so very much, first of all, whether it is on YouTube or Facebook, really grateful. But right now, you are building your tomorrow. Whatever you heard so far in this show, if you're going to apply that, if you're going to start learning more about that, if you're going to start, for example, contact Mark or go to his workshop, or even just start reading more about this stuff, this is how you can improve your future, your business future, your relationship future, your financial future. Yeah. And it's so important to use this time like now. There's never better opportunity than now. We have this time. We still, I mean, countries are getting out of the lockdown, even though there was some bad news about China yesterday, but I'm not going to go into that conversation, right? But still, nothing going to be going back to normal for a while, because things cannot go back to normal, because we never go back. We always go forward. And here, the only way where we can go right now is way forward. But the way how you're going to go that way forward, that's up to here. What you're going to plant into here, you're going to start working on that going forward.
And I think it links into our propensity not to innovate, because, we're in our comfort zone. We're thinking, okay, I'm all right here, doing okay. And Olga, you probably know more about the psychology of challenge than I do. But, the human being is designed to replicate today what didn't kill it yesterday.
Yes.
That's the way we're wired. So if something didn't kill me yesterday, I'm biologically wired to repeat that today.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's a fundamental process, and that's why people fear change and development and all that sort of thing. But fundamentally, what choice is there?
Yeah.
Because one day you will reach capacity. as a person, whether, you know, in terms of stress and things that you manage with people and help them with those sorts of things. You know, you'll reach capacity at some point, and it's the same in business. At some point, you'll reach capacity. In business world, you run out of time. What choice have you got? Well, replicate it. But actually, what I'm suggesting here actually is a different thing. Here's something that makes it better forever.
Yes.
Not more now.
I love that. I love that. That's really good. Thank you so much for this one. But actually, we do have here now.
Olga, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't know whether you can hear me, but you've gone. I can't hear you at the moment. I can't hear you at the moment. I don't know whether you can hear me. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Do you want to? If you've got a question, Olga, do you want to type it in the box? Let me close that. I've opened up here. So, is that a question of better business is better communication between you and client, also them trusting your guidance and judgment, and then it's finished there. That's good. So I think there's a few other people that suggested they can't hear Olga as well. So obviously technology overtook Olga and I about 1:45 this afternoon as well. But we managed to get back online again. It looks like it's overtaking us. So apologies. Perhaps you'll wrap up, Olga, at some point, and we'll call it a day. I will. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon, Olga. Today, been a real pleasure. For our audience, I hope that what I've shared with you has helped you. I hope it's inspired you to more importantly take action. Please do get in touch with Olga. My diary's open as well, so please do get in touch with me if you'd like a chat.